Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the City Bible Forum here today. My name is Robert. If you've not met you before, I'm the director of the City Bible Forum here in Melbourne, and it's great that you can come along today. I'm glad that you're not too busy to come out for our lunchtime forum today. The City Bible Forum is a place where we stimulate discussions of the big questions of life, and this week we're thinking about the rat race. And the rat race is an endless, self-defeating or pointless pursuit. And for many of us, that's the daily grind of life in the city. It may feel a bit like a rat race. And today we're exploring the issue of time. I'm busy. I'm not sure if any of you have ever felt busy or are busy at the moment. No one busy. Oh, that's good. Well, maybe we'll go a bit longer than finishing up at 1 today. Just to know what's going to happen, I'm going to shortly introduce our speaker, our presenter today, Stewart. He's going to present for about 20 minutes or so, and then we'll open it up for questions and discussion. This is a forum, and we do appreciate interaction and all opinions, and every question and so on is very valuable, and we look forward to that time very much. You can ask questions either via the SMS number provided, just go to my phone, and we can contribute them to the discussion, or you can just put your hand up and ask a question that way as well. Now, we are very conscious that this is your lunchtime, so we'll make sure that we're all done by about 1 or so that you can get back to your desks for an afternoon of productive later, or unproductive perhaps, depending on what you're doing. But you're welcome to stay longer as you like. There's some lunch available for purchase, and also some free literature available, and also some books available on our bookstall at the back. I'd like to now introduce our presenter today, Stewart. Al has a business background in marketing, and he's worked for many years in Christian ministry. He now works for the City Bible Forum as a national communicator. So he regularly speaks around Australia and internationally as well. You can follow him on Twitter at BaldyPastor. Not quite sure why he's chosen that. You can ask him later perhaps. But please welcome this afternoon, Al Stewart.
Good afternoon. Value this time of your life, kids, because it goes by so quickly. When you're a teenager, you think you can do anything, and you do. Your 20s are a blur. In your 30s, you make a little money, start a family, and think, what happened to my 20s? In your 40s, you grow a little pot belly and maybe another chin, and one of your girlfriends from high school becomes a grandmother. In your 50s, you'll have minor surgery. You'll call it a procedure, but it's surgery, and the music starts to get too loud. In your 60s, you'll have major surgery. The music's still too loud, but it doesn't matter because you can't hear it anymore. In your 70s, you'll retire down in the Mornington Peninsula. You'll start eating dinner at 2 in the afternoon, lunch at 10 a.m. and breakfast the night before, and spend your days wandering around shopping malls looking for the ultimate soft-serve yogurt and muttering, how come the kids don't call? How come the kids don't call? In your 80s, you'll have a major stroke and end up babbling to some sweet young nurse who your wife can't stand but who you call mum. Any questions? Now, does anyone remember or know where that speech comes from? It's getting a bit old now. I'm a bit of a fan of old movies. Anyone know where it comes from? Okay. Billy Crystal in City Slickers. The next one too, Rod. And that's what happens basically is Billy Crystal turns 39, begins his midlife crisis, and that is his speech to his son's class about life and so on. Yeah, it's a funny movie, and it's how life seems to go by very quickly. As I look around, some of you guys haven't had quite as much time to notice that as I have, right? But it's a funny thing that each decade of your life goes by quicker. Okay? 20s, 30s, 40s. I turned 50 about 15 minutes ago. And I'm 55 in January. It just, where do they go? And the other funny thing is, as you get older, the days get longer and the years get shorter. Anyone want to fess up to that they've noticed that? Okay, just a couple of you, yeah, that not. Alright. Now, why is it? I'll tell you the other fun thing about getting old is you begin to look like and sound like your parents. True. Wonderful thing. Alright. Now, what's the answer? Busy, 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 day by day. maybe technology is the answer. If we could just do things faster and better, then we'd have more time, the pressure would come off. Right, that makes sense? So let's see what's happened in, say, the last 150 years. So, what's happened? Bang, huge change. Samuel Morse invents the telegraph. Before that, the fastest way you could get news around was basically horseback. Massive change. So 1837, Samuel Morse invents the telegraph. Then 1876, Alexander Graham Bell, after a little bit of legal to and fro and so on, patents the first telephone. Now, that was of no use at all until he did what? Good, let's go.
Okay, who works at Telstra here? What's going on?
Okay, don't worry, let me take you through it.
I'll
Technology, isn't it interesting talking about technology? Okay, let me take you through it. Of course, the first telephone was no use at all until he invented the second telephone. In 1930, the first analogue computer. 1942, the first digital computer. 1947, the first mobile phone. 1948, the first telephone pager. 1956, the first computer hard drive. 1958, the telephone modem. 1971, cellular phones. 1988, the first commercial email. And of course, email will make our lives so much quicker and convenient and so on, won't it? And 1990, the web, and the rest is history. But I don't know, with all of that technology, why is it that we feel more and more pressure in the area of time? Have you ever heard the expression, time poor? How can you be time poor when you've got 168 hours a week? It doesn't quite make sense. Time and how you understand it is one of the key things that the book of Ecclesiastes deals with. Now, in your program is part of Ecclesiastes chapter 3. All right. It's part of Ecclesiastes chapter 3, and in the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon is, the writer, it's either Solomon or someone writing through his eyes, Solomon the great king of Israel. Okay, excellent. Let's go, whip through. First commercial email, World Wide Web, blank, and we're right. Okay, gotta love technology. All right, seamless. In the book of Ecclesiastes, Solomon or someone writing exactly around that time is trying to work out what gives life meaning or purpose. And as he opens the book, just a little book about 12 pages in the Old Testament part of the Bible, here's what he says as he looks at the world. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless, everything is meaningless. Life seems kind of futile and pointless. In fact, yesterday I was explaining to people here, that word meaningless, a little bit hard to find the exact right word in English. The Hebrew word hebel means a mist or a vapour. It's the idea of something that's there and then it's gone. And it feels like life kind of slips through your fingers and so on, you can't hold on to it. And so he asks this question, what is it, next one please Rob, yep. What do people gain from all their labours at which they toil under the sun? In other words, we work really hard, we put in the hours, what's the gain? Commercial term, gain, it's like what's the bottom line? What's really left? Okay, what's the cash value as you toil under the sun? And my aim today is to try and motivate you to read these 12 pages or so in the Old Testament, the book of Ecclesiastes. And this word, this little phrase here, under the sun, it's kind of unusual in the Bible. What's he mean? What he means is just the world as you see it. If you just looked out with your eyes open and your common sense, what do you see in the world? It's like almost like saying, well, with the rest of the Bible shut, if God hadn't spoken to us, if you just had your common sense and your eyes open, what would you see of the world? Now, we looked yesterday in chapter 1 of him saying, like, the world feels like Groundhog Day. It just goes round and round and on, and it's the same stuff again and again and again. By the time you get to chapter 3, he's looking at the idea of time, or the seasons, or how do you make sense of time. Chapter 3, we've got it printed out there for you. It was actually this little poem here, you look, see verses 1 through to 8. It was actually put out as a kind of folk song by the Birds, I think it was a group, way back in 1965. Even I don't remember that, but I checked, it's available on iTunes, but I won't inflict it on you. If you have a look through verses 1 to 8, what's he saying? Well, it's about things that happen in our lives, from the biggest events, right? Time to be born and a time to die, Down in verse 3, things that are creative and destructive, to plant and uproot, to kill and to heal. Emotions, public and private, in verse 4. About building and possessions in verses 5 and 6. Verse 7, time to speak and time to be silent. And verse 8, about personal relations, love and hate, and national relations, peace and war. But the way to really understand a poem is to listen to it. So let me read this to you and just get the vibe. Don't worry too much about the detail, but get the vibe of what he's saying. And I'll read, you might like to follow along, chapter 3, verses 1 to 8. There is a time for every activity and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to search and a time to give up. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. What's the vibe you get? What's it? It's the pendulum that swings backwards and forwards, or maybe the metronome. Keep the rhythm, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. And what's he saying? Life, the way to understand life, it's not an exact equal flow of all minutes and seconds. You can't really understand life with just your watch or a calendar or whatever. What's he saying here? There's 14 pairs of events, from the biggest things, our birth, our death, to small things like time to sow, time to mend. There's love and hate, war and peace, and so on. What he's saying is, and this is worth the price of admission today, right? Okay. That is, wisdom, if you want to understand life, it's not just about actions. The real secret to life is timing. Okay? So it's like the stock market. It's really easy to buy and sell. You can do that with a phone call. But the real secret is when. When do I buy? When do I sell? How do I make sense of that? It's easy to speak, but the real question is, when do I speak and when should I shut up? Like you imagine how much more powerful is the right word at the right time. There's a proverb in the book of Proverbs that says, a person finds joy in giving an apt reply, and how good is a timely word. Now I can usually think of exactly the right thing to say about 24 hours later. Okay, maybe timing's what it's all about. I just pick one, in sledging in sport. Now if you're a cricket fan, if you're not, you'll miss this one, but if you are, you might appreciate it. The Ashes against England starts tomorrow. The finest piece of cricket sledging I've ever heard is this. It was done by James Orman, who was an English cricketer back in 2001. So 2001, the War brothers are playing and so on. Steve's the captain. James Orman comes out to bat for England, and Mark Waugh said to him, "Mate, what are you doing out here? There's no way you're good enough to play for England." Orman replied, "Maybe not, but at least I'm the best player in my own family." Anyway, if you know it, yeah, okay, with his brother there. Now, why does this matter? It matters this way. You need to know or understand what season of life you're in. And if you do that, you're able to work with the grain rather than against it. Or maybe a better analogy, that is, you need to be able to go with the current rather than against it, because you get it wrong, it can drown you. My wife Kathy and I went on a little holiday to Thailand in July, the bottom of the island at Phuket. We walked across to the beach, and she had read on one of the websites there that there had been 4 people drown on this beach in the last few weeks. And you can work out why. The people from China have never seen the surf, or a lot of Russians go there on holidays. And they charge into the surf and get caught in a rip. And what's the first thing they do? They panic and they try and swim against it, and they drown. You know, if you're caught in a rip, what's the thing that you do? Go with it. It'll only take you out to the back of the waves and you can come back in. So you've got to understand where's the current taking you. And what's this mean? If you misread the season of life that you're in, if you're trying to fight against the inevitable current, it will damage you or even drown you. Let me give you an example. If you're 25 and single, like my son is at the moment, you can live the free life. He does what he wants, when he wants, spends his money on clothes and food and has a great time. He's going to go on holidays, you know, just free as a bird. Great. But that's his season. In a few years' time, if he's married with 4 kids, a cardigan and a Tarago, okay, and he wants to live like he's 25, it's going to drown him. So the season when you're young and single, great. Once you're married with a whole bunch of kids, there's a different season and you get them mixed up, you're in trouble. Or when you're 55, you can't be 25. You can't look like you're 25 and you can't play sport like you're 25. Believe me, I know. You can't. We talk about, you know, with women, we talk about mutton trying to dress up as lamb, and you said it's sad, but the same thing happens for men. You get old as a bloke, your brain keeps trying to write checks that your body can't cash. You've got to know what season you're in and start trying to enjoy midlife. Or if you've got kids, you've actually got, when the kids are little toddlers, you've got them completely under control, or as much as you can, and you kind of sit on them and keep them safe. By the time your kids are 21, 22, whatever, you've got to let go. So what season are you in and where are you up to in terms of letting them go and so on, and you mix that up, you've got problems. So what season is it in your personal life, in your family life, in your lifespan? It's worth trying to think about that. And are you going with the current or are you trying to fight it? Now see, look at verse 11. What's Solomon saying? He's made everything beautiful in its time. And that's true, that the right event at the right time is a beautiful thing. So the first coffee in the morning, getting your whole family together at Christmas, you know, that kind of thing, that can be a beautiful thing. If you're a gardener, the lady who lives next door to us up there in Sydney is a really accomplished gardener, and her garden looks beautiful white. She does the right thing at the right time of year and so on. Now we try hard to control our lives. I always feel busy and rushed and not enough time. I bought a bigger diary. It didn't work. I really did. Well, now I've got an electronic diary, and I check, it goes until I'm 100 years old. And I check on the Monday morning I turn 100, I still got to go to staff meetings. There's no escape from the sucker. Maybe time management's the way. So we get the personal management gurus like Stephen Covey. Good writer, and I think particularly good looking as well. Wrote the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I read that, actually it's really good. And then I bought the next one called First Things First. I didn't get to read that because I accidentally left it on a plane in the pouch in front of the seat. You got any idea how embarrassing it is to ring lost property at an airline and say the book that was meant to get my life in order, I've lost it? Do you think you ever? I only rang once. We try. You know what? We don't control the events in our lives, do we, folks? We plan the happy times. We plan weddings get planned long in advance. Friends and someone getting married. We plan birthdays and anniversaries and holidays. Yep, we plan that. But you see, he says there's a time to mourn as well. We never plan the sad times, and yet they wash over us like the waves. So in my wife's family, in the last month, she's had 3 relatives die. 3. She's been to 3 funerals in the last month, and none of those were planned. In fact, it was a sadness to me to hear that Stephen Covey himself died last year as a result of injuries from a bicycle accident, of all things. And even Stephen Covey didn't plan that. And so we tear and we mend, we laugh and we weep, we build and we tear down, how do you make sense of it all? You see, in verse 9, 3 verse 9, he asks the same question as he did at the beginning of the book. What do workers gain from all their toil? By the way, that's not in the text. That's my mistake in terms of cutting and pasting. What do workers gain from all their toil? In other words, you work really hard. It's like it balances it out. You laugh and you mourn and you build and you tear down, and kind of what's left at the end. I'll see. Have a look. In verse 10 he says, I have seen the burden God has laid on the human race. Now, what's the burden? What's the kind of load that God has put on us? He says He's made everything beautiful in its time. He's also set eternity in the human heart. What's it? Isn't it? Most people, not everyone, okay, not everyone, but most people on the planet feel like there's something more than just this. It's like, here's what I'm talking about, eternity in the human heart. You can call it spirituality, you can call it God, whatever you like. But most people feel like there's something more. And yet, how do you work it out? Paul Davies, who, as far as I know, Professor Davies isn't a Christian, says this in his book, The Mind of God. He says, I cannot believe that our existence in this universe is a mere quirk of fate, an accident of history, an incidental blip in the great cosmic drama. Our involvement is too intimate. The physical species Homo may count for nothing, but the existence of mind in some organism on some planet in the universe is surely a fact of fundamental significance. Through conscious beings, the universe has generated self-awareness. This can be no trivial detail, no minor byproduct of mindless, purposeless forces. We are truly meant to be here. And therefore, that's the end of the book. He can't work it out on his own. That's exactly what Ecclesiastes says. See, yet, second bottom line, yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. Left on our own, we can't work it out. So what's the answer? See verse 12, well, here's a kind of an answer. He says, I know that there's nothing better for people than to be happy and to do good while they live. That each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction in their toil. This is the gift of God. If you can enjoy your work, that's great. The trouble is, he goes on to say there's a series of problems. I'm going to go through them very quickly because we're going to run out of time. Rob, can you say? Yep. Now, I've made a mistake there, so it should be the first of the problems. But see, look at verse 14, what he says. He says, I know that everything God does will endure forever. Nothing can be added to it and nothing taken from it. God does it so that people will fear Him. Next slide, please. Whatever is has already been, and what will be has been before, and God will call the past to account. A little bit of a translation problem out of the original language. That last line can be, or God makes the same things happen over and over again. I think what he's saying is, it's impossible to change our world. You try really hard, but to fundamentally change our world or change things is basically impossible. Do you remember, I think it's 6 years ago now, that Barack Obama was elected to power with almost messianic enthusiasm from people? And I think the last 6 years have shown that even he hasn't been able to change things much. I'm not having a go at him, but my guess is he sat up at night a few times and scratched his head and thought, how do you make things different? Well, the next problem, verse 16. And I saw something else under the sun. In the place of judgment, wickedness was there. In the place of justice, wickedness was there. Now, I won't go on the level of corruption and abuse of power around the world and so on. We are so fortunate and cocooned here in this country. There's an organisation called Transparency International. They have a website where they rate corruption in government and business, and they rate nations from 1 to, I think it was 147 nations they rated. We're fortunate enough to be number 7 in terms of, from the best. I think Norway was number 1. We're number 7. The world corruption, power, I'm just going to keep going over that. Have a look at verse 18, which will give you the last of the great problems. A problem we're trying to make sense of life. Verse 18. I also said to myself, as for humans, God tests them so that they may see that they are like the animals. Remember, he's saying, this is just what you see under the sun. Verse 19, surely the fate of human beings is like that of the animals. The same fate awaits them both. As one dies, so dies the other. All have the same breath. Humans have no advantage over the animals. Everything is meaningless. All go to the same place. All come from dust, and to dust all return. And who knows if the human spirit rises upward, and if the spirit of the animal goes down to the earth. Looks like we all just, everything dies. So you got a photo here of is the Stewart family, Kathy and our 4 kids, baldy-headed me at the back, and in the front, a dear friend of mine named Arnie. Rhodesian Ridgeback, about 40 kilos, magnificent dog. I just loved him dearly. He got to the age of 13, his back legs started to go, he couldn't walk properly, he started to get kind of dementia, he'd wander into kind of, I don't know, he started to lose it. I took him to the vet. I remember saying to the kids, I've got to take Arnie to the vet and get him put down this week. I said, Dad, it's the 3rd time you've told us. He said, I'm just getting you ready for it. I said, no, you're getting yourself ready. Yeah. So I took him to the vet, and I don't know if you've ever had a dog put down, but they give you they give them, the dog, a big, a huge needle that looks like green GI cordial. And so he's just there, and I held his front paw, and they just slide the needle into the front paw, and it takes about 2 seconds then. So I kind of patted him and then walked home in the dark and teared up a bit and I thought to myself on the way home, you know, probably won't be that different for me. I hope, you know, the kids might be there. I hope I don't get the green needle. But, you know, he had his time and then he died, and I'll have mine. And what was the difference? Well, under the sun, he slept on the couch out the back, the old one that I found for him, and I slept inside. Oh, and the other difference is, I know it's coming. I know it's coming. Now, can you see why we live with angst? What he's saying is, under the sun, just look out what you see, we live with eternity in our hearts, and we die like our pets. Is it any wonder that there's angst in our lives? Eternity in our hearts, and we die like our pets. And so saying, under the sun, we build, we demolish, we laugh, we weep, we're born, we die, and the best you can do is try and enjoy it on the way through, and so on. If you can come back tomorrow, I can depress you some more, okay? except, remember, if you can read to the end of Ecclesiastes, he has an answer that changes everything. Okay? It's only a few pages. An answer that changes, I won't tell you what that is, but the answer changes everything. Now, let me just conclude quickly. If you open the rest of the Bible and keep turning to the right, quickly you move 1,000 years forward. And if you move to the book of 1 Corinthians, where the Apostle Paul, great Christian teacher, writes to the people who'd become Christians in the town of Corinth, he writes them, and in chapter 15, as he talks about the future, he says basically this. If this is all there is, if we just live under the sun, let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die. That's all there is. But he says, he talks about an event that's changed everything. An event that's like a big peg driven into history. And the event is the resurrection of Jesus. And this is written about 30 years or so after Jesus had risen. And here's what Paul says, but if Christ, if Christ Jesus has indeed been raised from the dead, but Christ has indeed been raised from the dead, the first fruits of those who've fallen asleep. What's he mean? He's saying Jesus has been raised, and so all the promises Jesus made, everything that he said about himself, his promises of forgiveness, the promise of eternal life, it's actually true because he rose again, as he said. Paid the penalty for us and rose again. And the idea of the first fruits is that he's been raised, fit for eternity, and those who trust Jesus will be raised to be like him. And Paul's saying, because that's happened, everything's different. All right, 1 minute to finish up. Can I suggest takeaway value? Have a think about Ecclesiastes 3. You might want to think about what season of life you're in. Where are you in terms of your personal life? Where are you up to? How old are you? How can you work with the flow? For me, I actually get used to the fact I'm a grandfather now. Okay, probably should start acting a little more mature. I probably should stop writing cheques that my body can't cash, if you know what I mean. You might want to think, where are you up to in terms of family life? How can you go with the flow rather than try and fight it? Where are you up to in your work life? What season are you in? How can you be wise in that? And in terms of Jesus and his resurrection changing everything, about two weeks ago, Peter Hitchens, the brother of Christopher Hitchens, was on the ABC show Q&A. So Christopher Hitchens, the outspoken atheist, unfortunately he died a year or so ago.
2 years ago.
2 years ago now. Peter Hitchens is a journalist, his brother, he's a Christian. At the end of Q&A, Peter Hitchens was out here for the Festival of Dangerous Ideas. And at the end of the show, Tony Jones asked Peter Hitchens what was his dangerous idea. Let me read to you what he said. Brilliant. He said this: "The most dangerous idea in human history and philosophy remains the belief that Jesus Christ was the Son of God and rose from the dead. And that is the most dangerous idea you will ever encounter. It alters the whole of human behaviour and all our responsibilities. It turns the universe from a meaningless chaos into a designed place in which there is justice and there is hope. And therefore we all have a duty to discover the nature of that justice and to work towards that hope. It alters us all. If we reject it, it alters us all as well. It is incredibly dangerous." I don't know what you think about the resurrection of Jesus. I'm convinced that it happened. If you've never had a look at the evidence or never had really a hard think about it, this is the man who could point you in the right direction. I'll hand back to Rob now.
Great. Thanks very much for that, Al.